On a bitterly cold night, when the wind howled through the streets like an angry beast, the world outside felt unforgiving. The snow fell relentlessly, blanketing the city in a cold, unforgiving embrace. All the shops were shut, their windows dark, leaving the streets eerily quiet except for the occasional whiff of cold air that slipped between the cracks of the buildings. Inside a modest home, the Martin family was preparing for their evening meal. Thomas Martin, a kind-hearted man in his late 40s, looked out the window, watching the snow accumulate in heavy piles. His wife, Emily, was setting the table, and their children, Sarah and Ben, were chatting excitedly about their day. But as Thomas glanced out, something caught his eye, a figure stumbling through the snow. At first, he thought it was just a trick of the wind, but then he noticed the faint shape of a small family, struggling through the thick snowstorm. Without hesitation, Thomas opened the door. A gust of cold air rushed in, and he saw them more clearly, a mother, father, and a small child, huddled together for warmth, their faces pale and their clothes tattered. The little one, a boy of about 5, was shivering uncontrollably, his small body covered in the cold sweat of a fever. "Come in quickly," Thomas urged. "You'll freeze out here." The family hesitated, clearly in shock, but then, with the last of their strength, they stepped over the threshold into the warmth of the house. Emily rushed to the stove, quickly boiling some water for tea, and Sarah and Ben brought blankets and towels to comfort their unexpected guests. As the night wore on, Thomas shared his meal with them. It wasn't much, just a simple stew made with what little he had, but it was enough to bring warmth to their bellies and a glimmer of hope in their eyes. The little boy, who had been quiet and shivering, began to show signs of life. His cheeks flushed with the warmth, and his shivers slowly stopped. He even began to eat, his small hands gripping the bread with enthusiasm. The parents, grateful yet exhausted, fell into a deep sleep after a warm meal and rest. Thomas and Emily stayed awake, talking quietly. They had no idea what tomorrow would bring, but they knew they couldn't let these strangers face the storm alone. It was a small act of kindness, one that could not be undone. As the night passed, the storm raged outside, but inside, the warmth of the home enveloped the Martin family and their guests. It was a night none of them would ever forget. Years passed, and the memory of that night slowly faded into the background of everyday life. The homeless family, now safe and stable, eventually found their own footing. But the boy whose name was Daniel never forgot the kindness shown to him that night. As he grew, Daniel thrived. His fever had been cured that night, but more importantly, his heart had been healed, and he began to realize the profound impact that one act of kindness could have. He dreamed of becoming a doctor, a surgeon, someone who could heal others, just as he had been healed that night. Through years of hard work, determination, and a deep sense of gratitude, Daniel made it through medical school. He became one of the best surgeons in the country, known for his skill, compassion, and unwavering dedication. Then, one day, fate brought him face to face with the man who had saved his life, the same Thomas Martin. Thomas, now in his 60s, had been diagnosed with a severe heart condition. The only chance for survival was surgery, but his options were limited. The condition was rare, and the best surgeons in the country were his only hope. Daniel stood in the sterile, bright operating room, looking down at the man who had once opened his door to a cold, hungry family. He was now standing on the other side of the table, ready to give back the gift of life that had been given to him all those years ago. "Mr. Martin," Daniel said softly, as he prepared to begin the surgery, "I'll take care of you today. You might not remember me, but I remember you. You saved my life once, and I'll never forget that." Thomas, looking up through his weakened eyes, smiled. "I don't understand," he whispered. "How could I have saved your life?" Daniel's hand steadied as he began the delicate procedure. He paused for a moment and replied, "When I was just a little boy, you took me and my family in on a night just like this one. You fed us, kept us warm, and saved me from a terrible fever. Without that kindness, I wouldn't be here today." Tears welled up in Thomas's eyes, the memory of that long-forgotten night returning in full force. He had always thought of that moment as just a small act of humanity, something anyone would do. But now, looking into the eyes of the man he had helped, he realized the weight of his own actions. As the surgery came to an end, Daniel looked at his patient and smiled, relief flooding his chest as the procedure had gone well. "You're going to be just fine, Mr. Martin," he said. It was a success. Thomas, filled with gratitude, reached for Daniel's hand. "Thank you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for everything." Daniel smiled. A glimmer of the little boy he once was shining through. "If you hadn't helped me back then," he said softly, "I wouldn't have been here to help you now. You saved my life and I've only come full circle." The act of kindness from that fateful night had come full circle, leaving a mark that would never fade. What had started with one small gesture of shelter and warmth had rippled through the years, touching both lives in ways they could never have imagined. A homeless family had been sheltered by a kind stranger, and that kindness had, in the end, saved a life.